Welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. I am your host today, Elizabeth Harper. I am filling in for Mr. Matthew Rossi, who is not with us today. He is under the weather. But with me, as always, forever co-host Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hi, I like the idea of being a forever co-host. Means I'm immortal.
Yeah, we're all stuck here. We're all stuck here. They don't let us out of the podcast wagon. We just have to keep podcasting. That's but joining us today, we have dragged several people along with us here. Phil, hello.
Hi, I'm here, and now I'm in the podcast wagon. And how do I get out? Oh no, there's no door handle on the inside.
It's the podcasting Hotel California over here, and Nick has also joined us as well.
I have, and we all float down here. Yes, we do.
So the big Blizzard news of the week is definitely World of Warcraft patch 11.17 has launched today, the Legacy of Erethdor. And we did talk a lot about this last week, but there are some things we didn't go into. So, of course, if you have not been following, that means today we have Lorewalking for players 10 and up with 3 quests with Xal'atath, are the Ethereals, and the Lich King. I said and, that's also an or. Going through big lore moments. Now, has anyone here had a chance to play through any of the Lorewalking yet? Because I have not.
Not yet.
I've done the Xal'atath one.
Yeah?
I did the Ethereal one on the PTR. I have not touched the Arthas one because I think I know Arthas' story pretty well.
And this isn't like playing Blueprints. It's not that every little thing.
No, you can try to read a lot into Arthas, and I honestly thought that, with the upcoming expansion Midnight focusing on Quel'Danas and Arthas having kind of a big impact in that region, I thought maybe there'd be some kind of we could show that their ground is permanently messed up outside thanks to, Arthas blazing a trail through it. But no, it's literally kind of like greatest hits of Arthas' life, concluding with a sequence that would be very familiar to, a sequence that would be very familiar to people who put up with Xera's quests back in Legion. You may remember the end of it culminated with a fight where you played as Illidan and fought 25 raiders, many of whom you would recognize, such as Chani Awesome. It's back, and now you're Arthas. I've heard them say in interviews that really they claim, Blizzard developers claim, and I see no reason not to take them at their word because I'm not a Redditor, that they really just kind of wanted 3 stories to round this out. I can think of a few others that probably would have been more appropriate, especially going into the going into 11.2 and where we think that's going to go, and then into an elf-focused patch. Blizzard, if you're listening, Sunwell Lorewalking. So much of the Sunwell story is trapped behind stuff people can't do or get. But it's a fascinating little feature, and each branch of it has a new toy, which is kind of cool.
Is the toy also Arthas?
The toy, yes, the toy for Arthas is in fact Arthas. If you're familiar with the Halloween costume that turns you into Arthas, it's that.
Yo, I was joking. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's literally Arthas. Yeah, it's literally that kind of like that for everybody. The Xal'atath line yields a toy that lets everybody, not just Shadow Priests, hear Xal'atath whisper in your ear when you kill things for an hour, which is cool. And the Ethereal one is kind of spoilery for the Ethereal one, so go do that first. I'll just say it turns you into a native of Koresh.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's one that everyone's been looking forward to seeing, getting a chance to go back and see these lore moments that are hard to see. And as you say, the Sunwell, there's so much story to the Sunwell, but it's like, it's been a while since I did all of those one-time quests. I'm not going to, like the Blood Elf Heritage Armor. How long ago was that? That had some Sunwell stuff in it, which was really interesting and does directly tie into the Illyria stuff that's happening right now. But you do that once. I'm pretty sure once per account.
Yep. There's also the bit that's at the end of Sunwell Plateau. There's parts of that that never made it in game. So it's like, why is there a girl made of light here? Why does Kalik know who she is? because Calicos makes bad decisions. But
Well, yeah, that's just a given. Another big part of this patch is the Rise of the Red Dawn story campaign, where you will be joining Farron, Daneth, and Gayara.
Gayara. Yep.
Yeah, that's the only one that's just not ringing any bells with me. But I am not the lore nerd in this group.
You just haven't been Horde. You just haven't been Horde long enough. That's the Magvar.
Yeah, and I've been
leader.
muted apparently, so I was sitting there like,
Oh no,
making fun of Liz. Yeah, Overlord Grayara, the totally not Thrall, but kind of his sister, but really not. Sort of like the alternate reality Thrall, but girl. Like it's weird.
A gender bent Thrall. Yeah,
but not. But not.
Hey,
but not. Yeah, they
yeah.
can't. They're very different.
So yes, that we're going to be heading to the Arathi Highlands to, guess what? To quell tensions between the Alliance and the Horde, because it's just that time in the expansion, guys. It's time in the expansion that we gotta calm everyone down and tell them we need to work together because there's a bigger threat than fighting each other, which every expansion has to have that moment. And it's here. It's apparently here.
It's almost like Chris Metzen is back and controlling the story again.
That
can't be right.
Well, there are some rewards to earn here. Alliance players can get a Stormguard tabard and title. Horde players can earn a Hammerfall tabard and title, and everyone can earn some cosmetic shoulders that are inspired by Farron's. And this is a multiple quests, a 2-chapter story that you can play through. I don't think it's that long of a story, so shouldn't be a huge time commitment to play it out and get your shiny new tabards. And that's our big story moment going on here.
And perhaps most importantly for people who've just played through 11.15, it's all available now. You can just go do all of it.
Yes, that's definitely a big one. When 11.15 rolled out, it rolled out in phases. But all of this is available now. There is one thing in the patch that is not available yet, but most of this is here right now, today. You can log on and play it. Very exciting. The next big thing coming up is Combat Assistant, now live, with both the assisted highlight mode, which will highlight the next ability you should cast in your ideal per Blizzard rotation. Like the add-on Heliky, yeah. And then there is a single button assistant, which instead of just highlighting the right button, it will just turn that right button into a single button, and you just press that button. And it will go through the rotation with a penalty to your GCD that will prevent you from being, the most perfectest Warcraft player ever. But, it could still be a really good way to play alts, to learn about new classes.
Yeah, it's the thing I'm most excited about, and I think we talked about it before, but just so everybody knows, it's a thing when they were simming it on the PTR, it was like a 20% below optimal, which is nothing. That is really good, especially if you're like just kind of want to hit things with a rock or a hammer or whatever the case is, and you don't really have the wherewithal or the desire to learn everything all of the time. So
yeah, I know. It's not going to turn you into a super sweaty, effortlessly running plus 19s kind of player. That's not really what it's here for. There are some limitations to it. It doesn't use any of your offensive cooldowns, any of your defensive abilities, any heals, and perhaps most of that last one might be very important for tanks and healers. It does not use any heals or defensive abilities, but I actually like the added GCD because it gives you time to actually look at the button and go, oh, what does the game think I should be pressing next? Yes. I think that's honestly part of the reason that GCD is there, besides them not just wanting to trivialize content, is that it lets, it gives you time to process what the game is showing you. I think it's cool, especially for people who, maybe want to play a character without necessarily learning the ins and outs of how it worked. I think I would have appreciated this. I'm going to throw anecdote in here. Recently, when I was learning to play a mage, I leveled one up and I hadn't done it in a while, and I played Frost, and Frost was pretty easy to grasp. And I was like, cool, okay, let me try some of these other specs. And I swapped over to Fire, and I looked at all the buttons on my bars, and I looked at my talents, and I was like, I don't know how this interacts. I'm going to go to Wowhead. And then I read the guide on how to play Fire Mage and went, I don't have enough time in my day to process all this. So I swapped Arcane, thinking, Arcane puts up big numbers. Surely that's a little easier. And then I looked at how to play Arcane, and there are... I even watched a little video guide where someone was attempting to teach a player from zero how to play Arcane Mage optimally, and there are a list of 18 conditions you have to memorize under which you hit Arcane Barrage. A spec so complicated that most players admittedly use a weak aura created by the guide writer that just says Barrage now. Like, that's not an ideal situation for anything.
And all of this does seem to be part of Blizzard's plan to kind of downplay add-ons a little bit. They aren't removing add-ons from the game, but they do want players to be doing more of the acting and add-ons to be doing less. Which is to say... you are the one.
Question that right now, though. I'm sorry. Like,
come on.
They're literally adding an add-on that does the thing that they say they want people to move away for into the base game. So, to me, it just feels like they just kind of don't want third-party add-ons doing that anymore, and they're just going to take ownership of it.
I mean, maybe,
which is something they've done before, but this is this is an interesting case in that it's a tool that didn't really have an analog. Like, sometimes when they, incorporate add-ons into the game, it's just because it's better than something that they already have. But this is like, well, I guess this technically was better than any in-game capability for learning how to play a class or spec. So it's not perfect, but what first draft of things are. So
it's true. I mean, the thing is that you get a lot of like very high-end raiders who can trivialize content through the use of add-ons or weak auras. And that means Blizzard has to make encounters increasingly complicated, which hurts kind of the average player who maybe doesn't have a weak aura coordinated with their entire raid team to tell people, oh, you need to move left and you need to move right. And so it's just chaos when you hit these complicated mechanics. So from what Blizzard has said, that this feels like part of a larger plan to change how things are designed. And I feel like we saw maybe the first edge of that on Gallywix. The Gallywix fight in Liberation of Undermine, which was, it's not a fight defined by specific timers and or percentages. It flexes around a little, sort of depending on how much DPS you're doing. And it's not the same fight every time you go into it. So that means it's not a fight that an add-on can just do a timer and tell you exactly when something's going to happen. But that also means that this is a change in a concert of changes, and we haven't seen all of those changes. Some of those changes will be about encounter design, and we don't know what Blizzard is doing for encounter design for the next raid tier. So I think it will be interesting to see this as a piece of a larger puzzle. But we haven't seen the rest of the puzzle. We just have to see where they're going with this.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Sorry, like it was a random aside, but like it's a weird that they say one thing and then do the other. I mean, not that they haven't been known to do that for years, but I'm happy to see this, and I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear. Like, I think this is something that the game should have done years ago at this point, because it just makes accessibility so much easier for players. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, you want people playing your ding dang game.
Especially since Dragonflight, where we got our changes to the talent trees, and honestly complexity for every class kind of exploded again after years of purposely paring it back. So cool feature.
And there has been some speculation that this may be part of a plan to bring WoW to consoles. That's kind of everyone. I don't know if people want this to happen, or it's just like, oh, one button rotation. This is how WoW will get on consoles. Well, because you couldn't do an arcane mage rotation playing on your Xbox. That would not work.
I couldn't do my warlock rotation playing on an Xbox. Everyone loves to talk about WoW on consoles, but I've even just trying to play with WoW has controller support. It's actually pretty robust at this point, and it's near impossible to play pretty much anything at a decent level. I couldn't fathom doing what Joe does in healing on a controller. No, thank you. No, I can barely do that with a keyboard and mouse. Thank you.
But I mean, it's not outside of the question of realm of possibilities, and I think a lot of this is also spurned by recent comments that like CD Projekt Red have made about their development, right? So like a lot of game companies and larger ones at that are making statements like CD Projekt Red said that the new Witcher game, Witcher 4, is being designed with consoles in mind. Consoles forward is what they said. Not that they're going to ignore PCs, but they understand that developing a game, and you can see it sort of the transition in there from Witcher 1 to Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, like try playing Witcher 1 on the console version is absolutely impossible. And then try to play Cyberpunk 2077 on the console, and it's perfectly fine and buttery smooth. And with the propensity of people, and in particular, and I'm not just going to say just consoles, but we're going to move to handhelds. And I think this is where this becomes really relevant.
Yeah, I think the handheld space is very important here.
Yeah, because when people are saying developing for consoles, what they really mean is developing for controller. And handhelds, that market is booming right now. The Switch 2 just released and proved that you can put Cyberpunk 2077 on it, and it runs fantastic.
It's very good, yeah.
I mean, it's a locked 30 FPS, but like you can't tell really. There's not really any dips, and it's absolutely gorgeous on the handheld. And now you have, we just talked about this last week, you have the ROG Ally Xbox coming out, right? These are all handheld devices with controller support. So developing your game or moving your game to be on that platform or a platform that utilizes a small screen and a controller is just smart. How many people would log in and check their auction house or do a delve or, you know, do player housing, because that's coming too in the future, on a handheld when they're waiting in the doctor's office or when they're on a road trip or they're on a train or an airplane with, you know, whatever the case is. Like, people will do this. And I think developing a system or keeping that in mind and like making your UI and your game playable in that state is just smart at this point. I think it just makes sense. And I heard Nick and Phil also wanted to say something, so I'm going to stop. Nick, what do you had something to throw in there?
No, I was just clearing my throat. I was agreeing mostly just because you just rehashing your point of the pivot to console or like handheld console connected devices has every single platform has landed one now. PlayStation launched theirs like what, last year, maybe the year before that,
2 years ago. The PlayStation Portal you're talking about.
Yes, the Portal. It's a little bit different, but they say they're working on a PS Vita like experience, so they're working on releasing a new handheld soon-ish. Right. I guess it more serves as like a proof of concept. One, that people will buy it, and two,
as I'm sitting here with it right next to me.
Yep.
And it'll run your games at, you know, without losing, you know, performance, without losing visuals, and then Switch 2, obviously, like, you know, some missteps aside here is I haven't really heard most people say anything terrible. But yeah, it's, I was just say you're correct that the setup for everyone having their own handheld or handheld compatible type of device now is like not necessarily the new thing, but it is that optionality for people to have is becoming necessary.
Do you know what one of the best selling accessories for a mobile device was over the last couple of years?
HDMI adapter.
I'm guessing backbone style controllers.
You got it. No, but specifically it was the PlayStation Backbone. And it sold gangbusters to the point where that's what, like, there's a market for mobile, which is why they even invested in the Portal as much as they did in the first place and continue to invest in the development of it slightly while working on their other handheld. But like, mobile controllers that people snap onto their phones are a thing. Imagine that you could load up an app, I don't know, Game Pass, play one of the streaming game services. Maybe it's an instance of WoW that happens to be on a server that you can log into, with a controller that you can just, you know, throw like into your bag, like it collapses down. And then when you're ready to play, just snap it onto your phone and open that app and go to town. Like it just we're living in the future. We're living in a place where we never thought we would be at this point, right? Like we've come a long way from 25-pound gaming laptops.
I'd love to sit down and just like run delves on my Steam Deck.
Right?
So, yeah, I actually saw. Oh no, real quick, a plug away from this. Mr. GM posted a recently a complete guide to installing WoW on your Steam Deck. So, I think between that and the one button rotation thing, I'm gonna have to give that a shot.
Yeah, accessibility, and it's not just for people that need it. It's for us that crave it. Like we crave, I don't know, the sun, I guess. I don't know. Like it's just, I want it. Like I think this is cool. This is rad.
No, this is a great feature for so many people. I mean, for some of us, it's gonna help us, play classes that are difficult for us to play, or play classes we don't play enough to get good at. But for some people, this is going to literally let them play the game, a game that has become too challenging or too complicated for them to play, especially for something like player housing. If you just want to log on and engage with player housing thing, and the game part of it is secondary, this will let you log on and be successful and play through story and explore and do all the things you might want to do. But you can focus on what you love. You can focus on your player housing or your transmog or your whatever, and combat is secondary, that's kind of crazy to think about. A World of Warcraft combat secondary. So this is a great change. It's a great change. It's a little weird. Still not sure where exactly Blizzard is taking us here, but it's great. It's great, and we're going to see how it works out as we get a little farther away from the patch. Another thing, now live today, Turbulent Timeways has returned, starting in Battle for Azeroth with a new time-walking event every week for 6 weeks, starting and ending in BFA.
Ooh, that means
Very
we
exciting.
got to get started on that, don't we?
I know. You've got to do.
If you want the reward, you need to hit 5 out of the 6 weeks this time.
Yes. So 5 weeks of time walking. If you do the 5 weeks, you get an infinite dragon pirate mount as a reward.
I need it.
Which is great. I
need
love it. We all need it. So, Phil, you'd mentioned that time walking is getting some rebalancing that we're going to see this time.
Yeah, I mentioned the change, some of the changes in the combat assistant around trying to make things easier to learn your class, because that also kind of leads into the rebalancing of time walking. It's easy to look at this and go, "Oh, Blizzard detected fun. They made time walking hard again." Blah blah blah. They specifically have changed time walking since they realize a lot of people are using it to level, and why wouldn't they? It's fast, it's not that hard, and the experience is frankly great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they also want you to be able to learn your class. So enemies have their health increased, bosses significantly increased, so they don't just fall over in 3 hits. Lower level players and lesser geared players were made slightly more damage resistant. Heavier, as you get better geared, you actually start to feel damage more appropriate to what you should feel at your gear level. And in return for this, it is dropping slightly better gear at the higher end. I think it's Explorer tier instead of Adventure, so the second lowest level of gear instead of the lowest, but like still great for fresh characters. And is now 25 badges for completing a dungeon instead of 15. Which I think that improvement alone is frankly long past due with the amount of stuff they keep adding to the time walking vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's some rebalancing in there. Your time walking dungeons will take longer, but especially if you're leveling something like a warlock or a shadow priest, you might not just queue up for time walking and go, "Well, I'm useless because my dots will get 1 tick and then everything dies." Like, you might actually get to feel out what it feels like to play something you're leveling in time walking now, and that's cool.
Crazy talk.
I know, right?
So yeah, the extra badges actually seem just so good, because it could take a while. It could take a long while to collect rewards there. And you'd kind of go in and do the weekly quest, and it's like, okay, there's my big reward. You're getting such a kind of a pity reward for doing more. So yeah, it's all good. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because I do myself enjoy kind of lazily doing time walking and not having to think or work too hard, because sometimes you don't want to work too hard. But maybe this combines to be a good thing.
I don't think they've exactly. I mean, obviously, I haven't dipped my toe in. There's always scaling issues. Looking at you, Black Ops Depths.
Yeah.
But I don't think Blizzard has made this like a white knuckle life or death situation with the changes. It's just not going to be the 5-minute sprint where you've got the level 11 Fury Warrior who queued up as a tank and is 16 miles ahead of you, pulling like a squirrel on meth. Like I don't think you might just not have that situation anymore.
I'm feeling a little attacked there because I do have a Volpera Fury Warrior that I need to finish leveling, but
Liz, do we need to have an intervention?
What are you supposed to do if you're playing a Fury Warrior? That is the play style.
Yeah, but this is specifically a thing that happened though within the last large changes to Time Walking in, because of the scaling is characters would queue up as either a level 10 Brewmaster or a level 11 Fury Warrior, and they're basically indestructible and also topping the DPS meter in your group. So they don't stop to wait for the rest of the group. They load in, they go. So
whoosh.
Yeah, it's maybe a little less of that, but on the other hand, they're more damage resistant now, so I don't know, maybe not.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see how it plays out. 6 weeks of Time Walking coming up. We are also getting new Overcharged Delves, in which 6 delves will be overcharged with more traps and new enemies. And every day, 2 of these delves will be overcharged, so you can tackle it for more challenges and loot. The 6 that can be overcharged are Fungal Folly, Kriegwall's Rest, Nightfall Sanctum, Skittering Breach, Spiral Weave, Side Street Sluice, and did I just list 6 of them? I think that's 6 of them. We're just going to say it is. There's a new delve-specific talent tree that you can unlock through currency that drops in these overcharged delves, and it feels a little like Torghast, a little bit like Torghast, a little bit like Horrific Visions. I'm seeing a theme here. Have any of y'all given the Overcharged Delves a try yet?
I haven't yet. It's on my list, though.
Yeah, just enough to get my belt. I was actually kind of running one during the pre-show. It's interesting. So you don't actually have to be running at the highest level of challenge for these. If you're overcharged, you can run these. If you strictly want the rewards, or if you're not up to running 11s or whatever, you can run these on a 3, 4, 5, get your rewards, etc. But yeah, it does actually make it a little harder. I've been playing a prop paladin for the last month or so, and I was basically invincible in delves, and I got a little overconfident in the overcharged and pulled an entire room and got obliterated for the first time in a while. So if you're playing at the highest level, it is kind of an appreciable challenge, at least when you don't have that talent tree activated. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. This is the first week of the patch, so we are going to see how some of these features play out over time as you unlock more features and power your way through this stuff. Now, there is one big thing in this patch that is not live today, as opposed to patch 11.1.5, where there was one big thing that was live when it went live. That is treasure goblins, which we don't see a lot of treasure goblins in World of Warcraft, but this is a new greedy emissary event where treasure goblins will spawn and drop a mount, new tier 2 recolors, including a truly hideous judgment recolor, but also it's judgment. It's just judgments. It
doesn't make it not ugly. A little to clarify on this, they are appearing in Stormwind, Orgrimmar, Undermine, and Dornogal. And they will drop a currency that you can take to a vendor in Dornogal whose name escapes me, but it has hell in the name.
Of course.
Also to add on that too was that the last time this event showed up was for the Diablo 4 launch, as a little mini crossover, and the goblins were on a 30-minute spawn timer where they'd show up on the half hour in your expansion zones, but in your standard capital cities is when they would show up on the hour. So you're looking at when the clock strikes 0 or when the clock strikes 30. It remains to be seen if that's going to be the same type of rotation, but I have to imagine that with 2 expansion zones identified and then the 2 capital cities, that's probably going to stay the same, which at least gives people if this is something that they want to farm for, if you somehow missed out on a tier 2 set from the anniversary event at the beginning of the year or the end of last year, then there's your chance to farm.
Mm-hmm. And I just need them in every color. It doesn't matter how hideous they are. I need them. That's
Liz needs transmog.
It's a problem.
No,
it's a problem.
Shocking.
It's a problem for me specifically.
I do like some of these because a lot of these colors specifically are red recolors of transmog that didn't have it before. There is a red recolor of the Warlock set that is calling my name.
Well, there you go. But that is coming July 1st, so we still have a couple of weeks to wait. That's not as long as we had to wait for some of the patch 11.15 stuff. So this is pretty good. We're getting a lot of content with 11.17 this week. Mm-hmm. But now I'm going to I'm going to move on from World of Warcraft. I think we kind of hit the patch. Overwatch 2 also has a new season starting on June 24th. So that's coming up pretty soon. Instead of being like a huge overhaul that is adding new game modes that we've seen lately, this is just kind of more quality of life adjustments sort of season with some small fixes and additions. Stadium mode is getting a few new heroes added: Zenyatta, Junkrat, and Sigma. There are a couple of new maps coming to the stadium, and a rank reset. There's going to be new map bans available in quick play and competitive, and some new AU skin sets for Season 17, an 8-bit group, and an Overwatch Academy group. So new rewards to earn, and there's a quiet little bit of confirmation that a new crossover event is coming, possibly with G.I. Joe.
Oh, not possibly. They can
not. It. Okay. So coming soon, more of those crossovers that we love to hate and hate to love. They're always there.
At least G.I. Joe makes more sense than some of the other ones.
Yeah,
it's gotta be better than the Diablo 4/Berserk crossover.
Anything's better than that knows anything.
But the armor sets were just so on point for Sanctuary. Stylistically, it worked.
I mean, you don't want to. Genji's gonna have a Snake Eye skin. I'm calling it now. Like, that has to happen.
So yes, coming up in Overwatch, new season starting soon, new battle pass, new rewards. All the things. And we are also having some new comings in WoW Classic. Nick, I just asked you to write up the Phase 5 coming to the Anniversary Realms with Anne Courage.
Yes, and if it feels like this is familiar, it's because we were just here in the Season of Discovery Realms in November. But in the WoW Classic Anniversary Realms, Courage is starting at Phase 5, July 10th, rolling out 3 p.m. Pacific time. And once the clock hits 3, that will actually mark the beginning of the AQ War effort. So players who are familiar with this will begin using their profession gathering, cooking, and first aid skills to create items to turn in bounties. If you haven't done any Encourage anything before, get ready to contribute to this insane grind that is realm wide. And once it's keeping the old like the original spirit of the event intact, whereas in Season of Discovery, because I think at that point they were still trying to keep to a condensed timeline, they kind of made it more uniform for everybody. Even though there are only like a handful of WoW Classic Anniversary Realm servers, you will go as fast as your realm dictates that you will go. So when you do the war effort quests and you turn in these items, there's a number of items that you have to hit. It's numbers in the thousands. So that promotes, player engagement, and everyone's got to contribute. So once that number is hit, then that will hit the 5-day timer where all your supplies that you just donated, quote, get moved to Silithus at that time. Once the 5-day moratorium, for the lack of a better word, is up, then players who have completed the Shifting Sands questline will be able to bang the gong and start the 10-hour war. And that is the window where if you have completed the Shifting Sands questline, you can turn in and get your Black Karaji Resonating Crystal mount, and that is the only time the mount will be available. Once that 10-hour timer is up, if you have not completed the Shifting Sands questline, you will not be able to turn it in and get this mount, which is a mobile Silithid mount. For the players who haven't done this before, you start and finish all of your gathering quests in one of your capital cities. So for Alliance, you will go to Ironforge and go to Field Marshal Snowfall in the military ward. Horde players will go to Warlord Gorchuk in the Valley of Spirits in Orgrimmar. And that's how you will that's where you will turn in all of these quests that you will also get commendation signets to once again turn in for gear for yourself. And then once that leads into the 10-hour war, like I said, and once that finishes, then the raids will officially open. The quickest time that Blizzard has identified for players to jump into both raids, if you are on a super active server, is just over a week. So you're looking on or about July 17th for Encourage to open up. That is the 20-player raid Runes of Encourage and the 40-player raid Temple of Encourage.
This is such a weird event that WoW has never done anything quite like this one since. But it's been a few years, and I'm still kind of scarred by picking that many Peace Bloom. But here we are.
All I heard was the Horde needs more Runcloth bandages, and I'm here.
Okay. So yes, coming back again next month. And let's see, Hearthstone also has an expansion coming out next month, but I have to stop and call out the promo event that the Hearthstone team has run, which is a stream. The new expansion is the Lost City of Ungoro. And so they did a big event that was turtles versus lizards. It's just turtles and lizards. Racing.
Keeping with the dinos versus Tortolans theme. There was also an eating portion, so the turtles would actually have an option to be in the competition.
There was racing and climbing, and one of the turtles did surprisingly well in the climbing section of the race. But I am going to declare for all of us that Blizzard Watch is on Team Valentina, because Valentina is magnificent and glorious. And I see no one else has opinions.
I can't argue. You're my boss.
There are in fact notes in the show notes that we're not allowed to argue with you. So go Team Valentina. This is the benefit of being the boss, folks. You get to tell your underlings not to argue with you about what team we're on.
Anyway, turtles versus lizards. It was a fun little event that no actual Hearthstone cards were involved in this event, but you can watch it on the Play Hearthstone channel on Twitch. Go back and watch the VOD because it is fun. You just get to see turtles and lizards racing, climbing, eating, and sometimes just looking magnificent. Like Valentina. Okay. Moving on, we'll move on and talk about some real news. In other games, there's so much other game news, but not as much as there was, with this Next Fest and Summer Game Fest. But it's inescapable. We are in an era of beautiful games. It is this week is the Steam Fishing Fest, which is where you go to get all of your fishing games. Which it's a fun little sales event because there's a lot of games in this category. Have any of y'all looked at the Fishing Fest?
No, because I didn't realize how deep it was.
Lit itself on fire.
There's a lot in this, yeah. There's a lot.
I mean, you can go from games like Dredge, which is creepy horrors from beyond the depths, but also with fishing, or you can do Dave the Diver, which is 89 games in a trench coat that involve fishing.
There's a game I saw called Chill and Cast, I think.
Where
it's the first one on the first one that pops up. Yeah.
I thought at first that the cover art for this game was a watercolor painting until I zoomed in. It is worth looking at for the phenomenal pixel art alone on that game.
And also, it's just you go out and you fish, and your dog is with you, and you just stare at pixel art and sit with your dog, and it's like, this is kind of the perfect game.
I am legitimately astonished at how many fishing games there are.
Yes, it is. It is a huge genre, which I did not realize until there was an entire Steam event dedicated to it.
196 matches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not a ton, but way more than you would think of. If someone asked me to name fishing games, I think I would have probably named like Legend of the River King, and then like that one bass fishing game Sega did for the Dreamcast.
I would probably put Seaman in there for the Dreamcast as well.
Does Seaman count?
It's a game about fish.
It is a game about fish. I'll give you that one. A weird fish manfish,
voiced by Leonard Nimoy. Anyway, yeah, I got nothing else. Like, yeah. I'm just flabbergasted. I'm legitimately flabbergasted.
Go fish.
Man, Cast and Chill. This is not a game I would have looked at, but it looks so relaxing, which is the point. Not all.
So there's a rhythm game called Fish and Groove. I'm done.
The fishing games fall into one of three categories from just my brief scrolling. You've got cozy, right? You've got competitive, like Bassmaster Fishing, and then you've got for some reason, survival horror.
Yeah, creepy.
Hold on a second. Don't forget. There's others in here. Don't forget the dating sim, Fishing Girl Fantasy. Let's not downsell that one either.
I'm going to downsell that one.
I'm going to downsell that one.
I'm downselling that one, if only because a better dating sim came out today.
Exactly.
Oh, that's true. That's true. This greatest
like
dating sim of all. It was very well done. That was masterful. Date Everything is now live. It is a game in which you can date everything in your house, from the cabinets in the kitchen to the front door to the back door, which is not innuendo. They're all characters. There are 100 dateable characters, each lovingly voice acted by a famed voice actor that you have definitely heard of, because everyone is in this game. This is a game of.
It gets even weirder than that. You can date the concept of being rejected.
Mm-hmm. You can date your own existential dread.
That's just called. Yeah, that's just my 20s.
I was gonna say.
Yep. And then there's day one DLC, including the ability to date microtransaction, embodied microtransaction.
It's just so good. I mean, it's on one hand, there's a tremendous amount of voice acting talent in this game and behind this game. Each of the 100 characters, or 102 if you buy the DLC, is fully voice acted. They have multiple endings, multiple relation types, which could be romance, could be friendship, could be you really hate each other. You know, you can go any direction with any of these characters. And that just makes for a big, sprawling, weird story. And this is the kind of weird you just don't get every day. So I have picked this up. I have not played it yet because I am extremely busy this week. But Date Everything now available in case you want to date literally everything. Not everyone, everything. Yep. Okay. We're going to move on. Move on from our fishing and dating and fishing. Now, there is something going on with Nexus mods right now, the big mod, video game mod site, which we've certainly leaned on for games like Fallout. Nick, do you have the story on that?
The creator of Nexus mods, who goes by the username Dark One, but also in their goodbye note, is referred to as Robin, so is taking a step back from running the site to focus on their mental health, and they have transferred ownership of the site to a group of new individuals.
On one hand,
I'm trying to keep it balanced because on one hand, like as an American, I have been there where it's like I just can't do my job. So I don't want to downplay or anything like that with someone having not just like the awareness, but the courage to say, I need to take a step away from this. And I need to take care of myself. I think that is incredibly important. At the same time, two things can be true. Sort of the way that this transfer of ownership was announced immediately, a lot of people's immediate response was, well, what's going to happen to the site? Who are these new people? And basically, what does the future hold? Because for anyone who doesn't know what Nexus Mods is essentially a community-driven site where people, on their own free time, of their own volition, create gaming add-ons for their favorite games. This is like all the crazy pictures of anything Elder Scrolls that you have seen, where you've got Darth Vader riding a dragon, or in Fallout where you've got a literal Iron Man suit. This is where generally people will use to upload it to disperse to the wider community. Most of it is free. Most of it is done for the love of the game. Like, unironically, people do it because they love the game.
Sometimes they do it to fix a game.
Sometimes they do it to fix a game. That's a good call. Sometimes you will also find patches for notoriously buggy games. Looking at you, Skyrim. And obviously, I think it's the fear of the unknown, right? People don't know who the new people are that are taking control of the site, and they don't know what their plans are for it. There is an extensive Q&A where the new site owners address some of the community questions, where they say that, basically the big hitters are the mods for the games will remain free. Nothing's going to change. People retain ownership of the mods that they create. They do dodge one of the questions about monetization from this point on, which is what made people feel a little antsy as I read these responses. It's a very clear question. Well, what additional monetization will be added / changed to the site? And the answer is monetization is hard. And a site about no aggressive monetization, community first approach, blah, blah, blah. I want to do more digging, but I've seen a few news articles saying that they've identified who the new owners are and what their new company is. But I always encourage people to just take a step back. Do not go hunting for information on the internet that you cannot verify, or that cannot be verified. So I understand for something like this, for the Nexus mods, it can be a little scary. For myself, I have used Nexus mods for Skyrim. I am personally worried about what type of information associated with my Nexus mods profile, blah, 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 can be out there. But that's what's going on over there.
So that on the list of things to look out for. But yeah, sometimes you just need to say, okay, this is a huge project. I can't even imagine what running a site like Nexus Mods must be as far as time commitment, energy, money to keep the servers running, and so on and so forth. That's huge. And sometimes projects like this, we kind of put on community members. And we expect them to always be there, but you can't do that. That's so much. So we will see how this plays out in the coming weeks. Hopefully it's fine. I'm just gonna say, hopefully it's fine. Now, Marathon by Bungie has been delayed from September 23rd to an undetermined new date. It's
the latest in the step of mishaps from Marathon that appear to be mostly self-inflicted, and I'm being very kind. They are all self-inflicted. I follow Bungie specifically because I played so much Destiny for a lot of the last 10 years. I personally noticed a huge difference when, you could tell difference in quality of the game when they pivoted from the Destiny team towards putting those resources towards Marathon. And I know Marathon is like a classic favorite. A lot of people were looking forward to it, and basically since its announcement in 2023 has been hampered by nothing but scandal, essentially, that generally revolves around plagiarism of some sort. One of the most recent ones in the alpha was an artist was able to confirm that a lot of their images dating back as far as 2017 appear in the live alpha, and it's not similarities, it's not like uncanny likenesses, it is there are side-by-side comparisons of this was ripped. That's on top of the negative reviews that the alpha got in terms of like gameplay fulfillment, and now it seems that in the wake of all of those the feedback, and the game is now being delayed indefinitely.
Well, sometimes that's what you need, to step back and fix it. You know, sometimes you just need the extra development time, but sometimes it's a bad sign. I don't know. All right, Phil, have either of you been following Marathon?
Initially, I was very excited for it, but now I'm starting, like, after like the alpha stuff and hearing about like we'll call it trouble development. We'll be generous. I'm sad about it. I used to really I enjoyed and looked forward to like what Bungie was doing, but now it's just like I'm starting to feel like I'm wondering if they've gone the way of EA or something else, where it's just like it's not quite what it used to be and not quite the same priorities, but we'll see.
Yeah, if I've been doing anything with Marathon, it's been I would say whatever the video game news equivalent of hate watching is. I was a huge fan of Marathon. The original game that Bungie came out with, Marathon, was so good. Like pivotal FPS, and especially storytelling in the first-person shooter, including stuff that then they carried forward into Halo and some concepts into Destiny. It was really cool. And now they're like, hey, we're throwing all that away for an extraction shooter that's banking on the Marathon name. So no. I'm only following this game out of spite at this point.
You would not be the first.
Yeah, like I don't want to wish ill on Bungie. Like there's enough problems with layoffs and shutdowns in the industry, but this feels like just one big calculated misstep after another. It's you hate to see it. Bungie felt like for a while, they were one of those big titans of the industry, and now it feels like they're like one misstep from. We're sad to report that Bungie has been downsized.
Yeah, well, I keep saying this, but we're just going to have to see how this one plays out. It does not sound positive, though. So I'm gonna skip ahead a little. Lego Godzilla set, Joe.
Yeah, I put it in here just because I thought it was fun, and I originally because we all know that Matt loves Godzilla, and I wanted him to see this. But yeah, so Lego does fan submitted review stuff. So the people will make builds and they'll submit them, and they'll have basically there's a community vote, and then it goes to Lego for review to check for the viability of the set. This happens pretty frequently. As a matter of fact, there's still some that are waiting for review right now, like the Boo's Door from Monster Inc., Planet Express headquarters, Clippy from Microsoft Office, like weird stuff like this being enshrined forever as a Lego set. But they do this periodically. They're called Lego Ideas. And you can actually go in, and some of these have already made it to live. Like the Lego Disney Tim Burton The Nightmare Before Christmas set was a Lego Idea set that somebody had put together and then was made into a production one. You can just go get a Tuxedo Cat, because you can just go get a Tuxedo Cat. You can go get the Pixar Luxo Jr. with the ball and everything. But this is Godzilla or Blockzilla. Whatever you want to call it. The fan-made one looks really, really cool. Looks like it has some extra bits in it that need to probably be strengthened up for articulation, but that's where Lego engineers come in. Lego, who has a pretty good track record with making some pretty wild kits, are actively working on Godzilla. And yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. So congratulations, Matt E720, with your Lego idea getting picked, because I need this. I need this in my life. You just did the Lord of Lizards work there. Thank you very much.
on time, Joe. Do we have time for another one?
Yeah.
Before wrapping up?
Yeah.
Then Nintendo. It sounds like Nintendo has already banned some Switch 2 consoles due to people possibly using the MIG Flash third-party cartridge.
Yeah, so a lot of this is not confirmed. So this is there's speculation in this, and
rumor mill.
Some of it's rumor mill, but some of these people, their Switches are legitimately they're banned, they're locked, they're shut off from Nintendo services. That part we know is true from at least the screenshots and verification of that. But what caused it is what's up in the air. So these people are claiming that they were using a MIG Flash cartridge, which is a cartridge that slots into the game slot, uses an SD card that is compatible with the Switch, and people have been using it to, play games that maybe they do or don't own a legal backup of. This was a problem with Switch 1, which they never really were able to crack down on. And they flat out said that they were going to be looking at this in particular. So the thought is that they may have found a way to determine if somebody is using a third-party device inside of the Switch game cartridge slot specifically, that is allowing them to emulate games, and they're shutting that down. And after recent lawsuits that Nintendo's had with a whole bunch of ROM sites, because we all know that Nintendo loves to sue and shut down ROM sites, it's not terribly surprising. So whether or not this is true and actually caused by that, don't know. But we do know that people have been cut off from Nintendo services on their Switch. And if you plan on trying to use a third-party cartridge in your Switch 2 slot, maybe give it a second thought. Maybe think about that before you do it, just in case. Nintendo seemed possibly to be making good on a promise that they made well before the console ever released.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if they'd have somehow done this capability just from stuff early testers were finding with test consoles, where even just doing things like running running various voltages to try to identify weaknesses in the hardware that could potentially be used for installing third-party firmware. Those kind of things were usually just very innocuous things you could do without a console really having an issue. It was bricking the Switch 2 and calling home. So they knew exactly which testers were trying to crack the device.
Yeah, and there's also an element too where they've I've been watching teardowns of the cartridges themselves, like the Switch 2 carts. And the Switch 2 carts are not actually really cartridges in most cases. They're security chips that essentially call back and authorize the play of the game. Like, they'll have code on them. Some of them are actual game carts, but some of them have additional components in them that validate the game to essentially call back home to base station. It's interesting what they're doing with the DRM.
Yeah, it's that would make sense. So I'd say there's an above average chance that this story is true. So maybe don't go online with it if you are using a flash cart.
Yeah,
maybe just don't sign into your Nintendo account.
Yeah,
and also only play legal backups of cartridges you actually own. Blizzard Watch does not condone piracy.
But this is part of kind of a worrying trend in the gaming industry, where what do you own? Do you own this console, or are you just essentially renting it from Nintendo and only doing Nintendo authorized things? We've seen game ownership heading in this direction for a while. It's like you own a game, but you can't necessarily play it.
Well, it's an interesting question that I think is going to come to a head soon. And I don't want to beleaguer this, but the reason I put this in here is because it brings up an interesting point in this particular debate, especially here in the States. A lot of the states here force electronics providers, especially things like cell phone makers, laptop makers, car manufacturers, and this also extends down to game consoles and game companies, where if you are in a right to repair state, doing something like this is technically directly at odds with that. So you're not just potentially going to get a legal challenge, person versus Nintendo. You might wind up seeing state versus Nintendo, where it's actively bricking it and not giving them a way to repair it is, or an out or something like that, violates that right to repair. and therefore, even if it is in the EULA, they have to give them an out. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that, because if this is actually happening, if people are actually getting hit from this, the legal section of it is very soon to follow, almost assuredly. So we'll see, because I'm really curious how that's going to shake out.
Well, hopefully there's something we can do with these. It could just be bugs. Sometimes you see this stuff with early hardware bricking itself or additional problems. But here we are. And with Nintendo, they do have a history. So, but we are short. We're short on time at this point, so I'm gonna wrap us up. I want to say thank you very much to Jeffrey this week for sending us a message on Patreon to let me know that The Expanse is still on Amazon Prime, because we were talking about The Expanse last week during the show, I think, because there's a new game coming out. Yeah. So, it's on my list, but there are so many things on the list. That's the problem. But if anyone else is like me, haven't watched The Expanse, in the US, it should still be on Amazon Prime. Not sure about other places. So thank you, Jeffrey, for letting us know about that. Now, our support on Patreon is a little lower than we'd like at $3,700. We try to keep it above $4,000 to kind of keep the site happy and healthy. So if you are able to toss us $1 or $2, that does really help out. It's a small group of supporters giving us just a little bit. That's what makes it all possible. So if you can support us financially, $3 a month gives you early access to these podcasts ad-free, and $5 a month gives you ads-free on the site at blizzardwatch.com. If you can throw us a dollar here or there, it really helps out. So I want to say thank you to all of our supporters. We appreciate you, and if you can throw us some support, thank you very much. But if you can't, then, listening to the podcast is great. Share the podcast with people who might like it. Read the site. And all of that really helps us out. So if you can support us on Patreon, we're at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch, or you can read the site at blizzardwatch.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our other podcasts, Tavern Watch and Lore Watch. Just search for them in your podcast player of choice. We are getting to the end of a great game of Masks on Tavern Watch, which was really, really fun to record, and I hope you're all enjoying it. And on social media, good place to find our latest articles and podcasts and to share things that you enjoy. We are Blizzard Watch on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Facebook, and Mastodon at gamepad.club. We're blizzardwatch.com on Bluesky, and Blizzard Watch podcasts on YouTube. So follow us for the latest news, to share, to like. We appreciate your moral support. And thank you all so much for being here and listening. And thank you to Joe, thank you to Nick, and thank you to Phil for being here, because otherwise I'd just be talking to myself, and that'd be really sad. And
I do it all the time, but this time at least I have, people that make me feel normal-ish.
Ish. An interesting podcast, though. The Liz Talks to Herself hour.
I mean, the problem with the Talks to Yourself hour is that when do you stop to drink water so that you
That'd
can
be a great April
talking
Fool's.
to yourself?
We would just build in random pauses, so it's like you're having a conversation and other people think that they can't hear who you're talking to, but it really is just you talking to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Matt usually hosts the episodes, but and does a lot of the talking, and you don't appreciate how much talking it is to host and to go through all the topics until you are hosting. It's like, well, I need a break. I need to drink some water. Someone else say something. But here we are. Hopefully, Matt will be back next week, and we can try to provide him plenty of water breaks, because you need them. You can't just talk for an hour. It doesn't work. But thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you here next week on the Blizzard Watch podcast.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.